There is a plant in your home that breathes against the current. While every other living thing around it exhales carbon into the dark, this one moves in the opposite direction, quietly, without permission, without acknowledgement. It has been doing this for millions of years, long before anyone thought to study it, long before anyone thought to place it on a shelf and call it decoration. We did not discover this, we simply stopped ignoring it. The world is full of knowledge that was never lost, only set aside, buried under newer, louder things. Here at Ancient Food Files, we return to what was placed underground, the stories, the science, the survival, and we bring them back into the light. If you believe that some things are worth preserving, consider subscribing, not for us, for the record. Before you continue watching, please check the link I provided in this video's description, that way, you can verify it yourself. Now, open the archive. Long before it had a Latin name, before any European hand pressed it between journal pages and carried it across the Atlantic, Sansevieria grew along the dry margins of West Africa, in what is now Nigeria, Cameroon, and the Congo Basin. The Yoruba people knew it, they called it a guardian, they planted it at thresholds, they believed the blade-shaped leaves could intercept malevolent energy before it crossed into a home. This was not superstition dressed in metaphor, it was observation, accumulated across generations, of a plant that endured when everything around it perished, a plant that remained alert when the world went dark. The leaves are unlike almost anything else in the plant kingdom, thick, rigid, architectural, they rise vertically from the soil like drawn swords, banded in silver and deep green, the edges precise enough to cut. Some specimens grow a meter tall, some grow taller, they do not bend easily, they do not wilt, they store water in their tissues the way a body stores memory, compressed, invisible, available when the drought arrives. And the drought always arrives. The biology of Sansevieria operates on a different schedule than most living things. Nearly all plants on Earth perform photosynthesis by day, absorbing sunlight, pulling in carbon dioxide, releasing oxygen into the morning air. At night, the process reverses, the stomata close, carbon accumulates, the plant rests. Sansevieria does not rest. It uses a metabolic pathway called crassylation acid metabolism, CAM photosynthesis, a system so ancient it predates the age of flowering plants. In CAM metabolism, the stomata open only at night, when temperatures drop and moisture loss is minimal. Carbon dioxide is absorbed in darkness and stored as malic acid within the leaf tissue. When sunlight returns, the stomata seal shut again, and the stored carbon is converted internally, oxygen release not outward but inward, cycling through the plant's own chemistry. The result is a plant that, at night, continues to release oxygen into the room around it, quietly, continuously, while you sleep. This is not a coincidence of nature, it is an adaptation born of millions of years in environments where water was the most precious resource on Earth, where opening a leaf pore during the heat of day meant death. Sansevieria solved the problem of survival by rearranging time itself, by doing in darkness what others could only do in light. Colonial botanists arrived in West Africa in the 18th century with notebooks and glass cases and an infrastructure built on the idea that naming something was the same as owning it. They found Sansevieria growing at the edges of paths, in cracked laterite soil, in the thin strip of land between forest and farmstead. They pressed specimens, they wrote descriptions, they gave it Latin names derived from Vincenzo Pitagna and the Prince of Sansevieria, men who had never seen the plant grow, never watched it endure a dry season, never understood what the Yoruba already knew. The indigenous names, the accumulated knowledge, the ritual context, these were not recorded, they were inconvenient, they implied prior ownership, they complicated the transaction. By the 19th century, Sansevieria was circulating through European conservatories and botanical gardens as a curiosity, its origins footnoted or omitted entirely, its name was now someone else's. In 1989, NASA published a study. B.C. Wolverton and his team at the John C. Stennis Space Center had been investigating indoor air quality, specifically, the accumulation of volatile organic compounds in sealed environments, buildings, spacecraft, places where air did not move. Sansevieria trifasciata was among the plants tested. It absorbed benzene, it absorbed formaldehyde, it absorbed trichloroethylene. The results were not dramatic, They were precise. What the study confirmed, quietly, without the language of miracle, was what the Yoruba tradition had encoded in ritual for centuries, that this plant altered the air around it, that it worked while you were unaware of it, that it did its most important work in the dark. The science did not discover this, the science confirmed it. And yet, even this validation came with erasure. The popular retelling of the NASA study stripped the plant of its African context entirely. It became a product, a wellness item, a graphic on a Pinterest board with no country of origin. The market absorbed the leaf and discarded the root. Sansevieria became an aesthetic before it could become a reckoning. This is how inconvenient knowledge disappears, not through destruction, through simplification, through the reduction of something deep and historical into something flat and sellable. The blade that armed African doorways, the leaf that breathed against the current, the plant that survived every abandonment, it became a decoration for minimalist apartments, its name misspelled on ceramic pots in shops that do not know its continent. We are now in an era of sealed spaces, buildings designed to be airtight, cities whose air does not move freely, a world warming at a rate that makes the dry seasons of the Congo Basin feel like a preview. Sansevieria has already lived in this future, it was born in it, the same biochemistry that allowed it to survive in laterite soil with irregular rainfall is the same biochemistry that allows it to function in a sealed room, at night, without a single photon of light to work with. It is not waiting for conditions to improve, it adapted to conditions that never improved. This is not a metaphor, it is a biological fact, and biological facts have a way of outlasting the systems that ignored them. The knowledge was never lost. It grew slowly in dry soil, it exhaled in the dark, it waited with the patience that only living things without ambition can manage, the patience of something that does not need to be believed in to continue. Every night, while you sleep, a blade of African origin is breathing in your room. It does not need your attention, it does not need your understanding, it was doing this before you arrived, and it will be doing this long after the shelf it rests on has turned to dust. Nature does not wait for permission. It simply persists. The snake plant remains where it has always been, in dry soil, in neglected corners, in homes that barely notice its presence. It survives mist waterings, it survives poor light, it survives neglect so thoroughly that people mistake its endurance for simplicity. But simplicity is not what you are looking at. You are looking at millions of years of adaptation compressed into a single blade, a plant that learned to breathe differently, conserve differently, survive differently, a plant whose knowledge existed long before laboratories measured it and long before markets found a way to package it. The knowledge was never lost. It was waiting. Waiting in African soil, waiting in the corners of homes, waiting for someone to recognize that survival itself can be a form of intelligence. If this kind of knowledge matters to you, the buried, the overlooked, the ancient made suddenly urgent, subscribe to Ancient Food Files. Every story here is one that almost didn't survive.